Update 4.5 is out right now, and we have a busy next couple of days. We have to talk about the next Fallen banner, plus an exciting Ashnard Grand Hero battle, but today we're covering the new weapons and refines. You can pick up new upgrades for Narcian, Leon, Siegbert, and Gwendolyn. Their new weapons can be learned with just SP, but if you want their special unique refinements, then that's going to cost 200 Divine Dew, which is pricey, so be sure you know what you're getting into. We'll cover what each weapon and refine does, plus talk about general playstyles with some build ideas. Let's get started. First up, we have Narcian, who was our very first Grand Hero battle unit. I remember the days of not fully beating it, but we've come a long way since then. Narcian is going to be getting the Runeaxe, which is a 60 mine axe that restores 7 HP every time Narcian deals damage. To be honest, it should just say you get 7 HP for every attack made, because Narcian still gets healed even if he does no damage. We've seen this effect before on Foresight's weapon and last year's Christmas units, and with the Runeaxe it's going to fall in the middle with 7 HP per hit. That's not bad at all, and 2 attacks will get Narcian up to 14 HP. If you refine the Runeaxe, it then gets, if penalty is active on foe, grants attack, speed, defense, and res plus 4 to Narcian during combat. Pretty basic stat boost if Narcian is fighting a debuffed enemy. Unfortunately, Narcian doesn't have a way to naturally apply debuffs to the enemies, so he is going to need some allies or debuffing skills to even proc this refine. He has Savage Blow by default, and I feel like this refine could have included fighting non 100% HP enemies as another condition. To be honest, if you aren't planning to support Narcian with debuffs from allies, it might just be better to take the stat refine for the Runeaxe. The most interesting part of this weapon is the heal on hit effect, and while you can't beat the full +4 to all stat boost, if you just want a guaranteed extra bonus speed or defense, then those aren't the worst options. Overall, Runeaxe is going to keep Narcian in fights longer, and he will want to get as many follow-up attacks as possible, because that means more healing. You could focus on speed, but Narcian isn't super fast by default, so that's going to be a tougher build to chase after, unless you just give him the full +10 marriages and summoner support treatment. The most simplest playstyle and build for the Runeaxe is probably going to be the standard quick riposte set. These two skills work very well together because Narcian takes a hit, he then heals back 7 HP, and if he takes a second hit, he can heal another 7 HP again. 14 HP every fight is quite hefty, and that can definitely keep him inside quick riposte range for at least another round. Being able to self-sustain from multiple quick riposte uses is awesome, and you can run a damage special since Narcian isn't exactly dealing tons of damage with basic attacks. For defensive skills, I think getting bonus attack from something like Sturdy Stance would be nice, although you can fill the A slot and Sacred Seal slot with anything you want. With his decent res stat, close defense is great for any melee threats, and if you can afford a tier 3 dual stance skill, then having guard would be ideal to avoid burst damage from the enemy special. Heck, if you want this encounter to only fight mages, then that's not the worst idea either. With quick riposte and Narcian's rather balanced set of stats, you can take the build into all kinds of different directions. If you would prefer getting a little more hands-on, then give Narcian double smoke debuffs in the C slot and Sacred Seal slot so that he can at least self-proc his refine. With Sturdy or Mirror Impact, Narcian will be able to prevent a follow-up, which would make it easier to safely apply his smoke debuffs, and the healing from Runeaxe should keep him healthy enough to duel it out on the enemy phase. An interesting skill would be Mystic Boost, since that's another 6 HP after combat. If Narcian were to actually double with Mystic Boost, that totals up to 20 health, and that is pretty hilarious. In a similar vein to smoke debuffs, you could also run chill debuffs like chill speed or chill attack. These can potentially give Narcian the chance to activate his refine by himself without having to fight someone first. If you ran chill speed, then maybe that could give enough leeway to run a more speed focused build. Pretty much any of the usual offensive skills would be fine, like attack and speed solo or Swift Sparrow. With the Runeaxe's healing, Narcian isn't a great user of things like Desperation or Vantage, so you're going to have to search for different options. In conclusion, I would say that the Runeaxe is most interesting when you try to take advantage of its heal on hit properly. The refined effect is kinda lackluster and basically requires Narcian to run with someone like Yoon or Versa, unless you want him to apply the debuffs first. If you have a highly invested Narcian, then I think you could have some fun with the Runeaxe, but it's definitely not super crazy or anything. Next up we have Leon, who got the Bow of Beauty. This weapon has 14 might, and its base form is just a stronger slaying bow by accelerating special trigger. Should you pick up the refine for the Bow of Beauty, at the start of combat, if Leon has more than 50% HP, he gets +4 attack, speed, and defense during combat, and if he is initiating combat, the foe cannot make a follow-up attack. This is a rather nice refine. As you can tell from his base stats, Leon is deathly afraid of magic damage. The Bow of Beauty doesn't even bother giving him extra resistance, but Leon's attack speed and defense are in an okay spot. Getting extra stats while healthy is very easy to fulfill, and having the impact follow-up prevention effect is nice if you aren't planning on investing heavily into speed. The Bowl of Beauty basically gives Leon a much safer player phase, and do keep in mind that the stat boost portion should work on the enemy phase too. This isn't a super insane weapon effect, but it's very easy to use, and Leon has a couple of different ways to go about using it. First off, we can try to go in an aggressive special spamming build. Sturdy Impact is partially wasted since the additional follow-up prevention will only be useful in very niche cases. However, we really just want the +6 attack and +10 defensive grants. The extra defense combined with Bowl of Beauty's own stat boost should make it easier to charge up a Bonfire special for the first time. With Accelerate specials, Bonfire is on a 2 cooldown, and once it gets charged, Leon can fire it off and have it recharge with Special Spiral. With Sturdy Impact, Bowl of Beauty, and the Sturdy Blow Sacred Seal, we can get an additional +14 attack and +18 defense. That 18 extra defense translates into 9 more bonfire damage, and that's going to help Leon secure those one-shot KOs. This build could work with other attack and defense boosting A skills since we already have follow-up prevention from the weapon. Next, we could instead opt for a purely physical damage build. With only 15 resistance, Leon kinda just wants to avoid mages or dragons completely. Luckily, we did just get close foil, which would allow Leon to counter against melee physical damage foes, and he also gets an additional +5 attack and defense. Bowl of Beauty gets him +4 attack and defense, and we can use the low attack and defense plus quick repose combo to further improve Leon's damage and tanking potential versus physical damage. This is definitely a full enemy phase build, but should Leon have to make an attack on the player phase, he can at least prevent a follow-up to keep himself alive. Last, we have the speed focus build, not the greatest offensive threat ever conceived, but Leon does just get a free +4 attack and speed just for being healthy. With the impact effect, he can also drop into desperation range easier. Sadly, Bowl of Beauty doesn't have perfect synergy with desperation or brazen skills, but if you can somehow get into that 50% to 75% HP threshold sweet spot, then you can reap the best of both worlds. Overall, Bowl of Beauty is a neat weapon that's easy to use and can work in multiple playstyles. Thanks to the impact ability, Leon could make for a decent Wings of Mercy type unit, or he could be the one to apply things like Savage Blow or AoE smoke debuffs. If you're just interested in a high defense archer, then you can also check out Gordon. Ignoring resistance is a bold move these days, but if you can make it work, then more power to you. Our third unit is Siegbert, who got a refine for his Dark Greatsword. As a Sword Cavalier, Siegbert is still one of the best offensive Sword Cavs stat-wise. His base attack and speed are pretty high compared to the rest of the group, and it's going to be his main focus. Dark Greatsword keeps its same base effect, which is essentially Swift Sparrow 2, +4 attack and speed on initiation. Not bad at all, and Siegbert comes with Death Blow to really pile on the damage. Should you refine Dark Greatsword, if Siegbert is not adjacent to an ally, grants attack and speed +5 and neutralize foes bonuses during combat. Another pretty basic ability, a slightly weaker attack and speed solo 3, but with full buff neutralization, Siegbert won't care what the enemy tries to hide behind. In total, Dark Greatsword offers a rather easy to achieve +9 attack and speed, which puts Siegbert into the 40s for both stats. Since he nullifies all field buffs, he also doesn't have to run a low B skill, which has become pretty popular for offensive cavaliers. With his decent base attack and speed, Siegbert is going to hit pretty hard in the player phase, and you shouldn't underestimate one that is packing even more attack and speed boosting skills. As a unit, Siegbert is still super simple. He just initiates with his 3 movement and has a ton of attack and speed. Attack and speed solo in the A slot seems like the obvious choice, and the Swift Sparrow Seal is another great option. As a fast, high damage attacker, Desperation is a pretty obvious fit for Siegbert. His defense is okay, but he also has really low resistance, so you do need to be careful around dragons or mages. If he can fall into Desperation range, then Brazen attack and speed offers even more damage, but another choice is Heavy Blade. Siegbert can spam Moonbow or Glimmer, or he can run high cooldown specials like Luna or Astra. He's a good Guild Force user too, but he won't be able to take many hits. If you want a really basic high attack and speed cavalier, then Siegbert is your choice. If you aren't looking to run Desperation, then you could go for a more utility-based B skill instead. Vantage is not bad, especially if you're going to be using non-Swift Sparrow skills. Renewal or Mystic Boost can offer more healing, albeit I wouldn't call Siegbert much of a tank. If you want to use him as a Wings of Mercy beacon, then Lunge or any of the movement skills can help improve that role. As for support skills, Siegbert could be the one to run things like the Rally plus Ruse combo. He would be able to support his teammates and he can still pump out damage when needed. Chill debuffs would be fine, and a breaker could help him break through wary fighter type effects. In the end, Siegbert's job is still pretty much the same. He's a player phase sword cavalier, but now with more damage and able to ignore enemy field buffs, which is great. A lot of people are going to compare him to Eliwood or Brave Roy, but that's with their refined Blazing Durando, which is an insane weapon, especially for Gale Force usage. I would say that while Blazing Durando is better if you want a Gale Force unit, Siegbert is going to be better at actually killing stuff, and he can pump out a ridiculous amount of damage with very little effort. For a cheap budget set, you can honestly probably just use his natural death blow and with the Swift Sparrow Sacred Seal. Last on the list for today is Gwendolyn. Her new weapon is the Weighted Lance, and its base effect is to just accelerate special trigger. Should you grab the Special Refine at the start of combat, if Gwendolyn has more than 50% HP, she will get +4 defense and res, and special cooldown charge +1 per the foe's attack during combat. So Gwendolyn joins the Owain and Rinka crew of getting extra special cooldown when hit by the opponent. As an armor unit with access to many powerful fighter B skills, this may not seem that special. However, this effect actually works nicely with Bold or Vengeful Fighter because those skills grant cooldown reduction on Gwendolyn's own attacks. Unlike Special Fighter or the Breath A skills, Bold or Vengeful Fighter don't provide full special cooldown reduction for every action in a fight. With the refined Weighted Lance though, Gwendolyn can get cooldown reduction when she attacks and when she gets hit if she uses those skills. As a Gen 1 low rarity army unit, many players may have built up Gwendolyn for the arena teams and may already have Bold or Vengeful Fighter builds. This weapon and refine will benefit them the most since those builds only get better, at least if you were using a Slaying Lance beforehand. For those running Vengeful Fighter, this refine probably gives the most value. Vengeful Fighter is a better quicker post and grants cooldown reduction on the user's attacks. With Weighted Lance, the first hit from the enemy is now going to give 2 cooldown, and since Weighted Lance is a slaying weapon, Gwendolyn can retaliate with a 3 cooldown special instantly. That could be a hefty bonfire proc, and should she get doubled, Gwendolyn can just get another bonfire to use. If you instead use Aether, you can get it charged up in 2 actions, and this may be useful if Gwendolyn doesn't get doubled since she can use Aether on her second hit, or she can save it for the player phase. In regards to other skills, Distant Counter is probably the most common for ranged counterattacks, but feel free to use a stat boosting skill like Fortress Defense and Res or a stance skill. If we're running Vengeful Fighter, the goal is to just be as tanky as possible. If you want to try another fighter skill, Weighted Lance can still offer some value. For example, with Wary Fighter, Gwendolyn doesn't need to run Steady Breath for extra cooldown reduction. She can replace that with Distant Counter, and she can retaliate with charged up soul counterattacks to stay healthy. If you run Bold Fighter, Gwendolyn can actually charge up Aether in 1 round of combat and use it on her second attack. This might be worth taking note of since her base attack is a bit low for an army unit, so getting Aether off for the damage plus heal could be very useful for her. This would go very well with the Bold Fighter plus Quick Riposte mixed phase setup. As for Special Fighter, unfortunately it already grants the same cooldown reduction that Weighted Lance offers. If you already have it and you are running a Slaying Lance beforehand, then this new weapon is still an upgrade thanks to the extra stats. You're getting bonus HP, attack, defense, and resistance, so I mean it's not going to hurt you. Overall, Weighted Lance is still a pretty good weapon. It basically just enhances all the most common armor fighter B skill builds because those haven't really changed too much because those skills are just so strong in a 1v1. To be honest, I think there are much worse army units to deal with out there, so while I think Gwendolyn does get better, I don't think she'll become more of an issue. That's all I got for this video. Do any of these new weapons or refines interest you? This batch doesn't really bring any complicated effects. These weapons are all pretty straightforward. I like what they did with the Narcian's Runeaxe for the base effect, although I'm a little disappointed with the actual refined ability. As for everyone else, we pretty much just got bonus stats on top of slaying weapons with a little extra effect. And Siegbert is just ready to murder whatever you put in front of him. Not a bad batch, and pretty much all of these weapons should be usable. Let me know what you think in the comments, and check back in for the next couple days as we got a lot more things to talk about. Thanks for watching, I'll see you guys next time.